say a few words about the LIFE program, although, of course, if you've come for this session, I assume that most of you, if not all of you, already know the basics of LIFE. Given my origin, I am the acting director, as Nadia said, of the executive agencies for SMEs. I will also say a few words about what we do, who we are, and of course, I will give you some highlights of what will come during this Info Day. So, by the way, I think there are also people outside in web streaming, so I welcome also them if they're here somewhere, if they see me. Now, the LIFE program, well known. It's one of probably the most consolidated and best established programs run by the Commission together with Erasmus, together with the Horizon, with the Research Framework Program. And it has already a long lifespan. The basics of the LIFE program, as you will hear in a moment from my colleagues from the Commission, is to protect the environment and to support policy making and legislations in environment-related actions and in climate-related actions. So it has a double role: support the environment financially, support activities in line with climate action and climate-related thinking, but also it has a role in terms of producing feedback and producing support for policy making. Now, it is a special day today. It's the second Info Day, European Info Day, but it is also the 25th anniversary of LIFE. So congratulations for the birthday. 25 years is already quite a lot of experience. In these 25 years, the LIFE program has already a well-established track record. Altogether, more than 4,000 projects have been funded, and more than 3 billion euro have been spent in support of the environment. Now, it is a program that is run by the Commission, in particular by two Directors General, Director General for the Environment, Director General for Climate. It has been outsourced, its implementation, at least, that's been outsourced to the Executive Agency for SMEs. There are a number of executive agencies, 5 or 6, depending on the counting. EASME, as it is pronounced, is, I think, one of the most interesting, and I would like to say a few words about what we do. EASME is, of course, focused primarily, but not exclusively, on SMEs, and you've heard from Daniel Calleja, the combination between environmental policy and economic policies. Long are the days when the environmental legislation was felt to be a burden for economic development. On the contrary, today, key concepts like circular economy, or even people are talking about a possible third industrial revolution, show the synergies, the opportunities that environmental legislation gives in terms of economic development, not least for SMEs. So the Executive Agency for SMEs is engaged in the implementation of a number of programs. We manage part of Horizon 2020, the Research Framework Program. We manage part of the COSME program, which is intended to support the competitiveness of SMEs. We manage LIFE, part of LIFE, and we manage also the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund. The fact that these activities are all combined in a single executive agency is not a coincidence. The role of the executive agencies, not just ours, but all of them, is manifold. One, obviously, we are responsible for implementing a certain budget for running calls for proposals. You will hear about the detail of the latest call for proposal in a moment. So we are responsible for then managing the project. There are more than 400 projects in LIFE active at the moment. We are also responsible, and this is the beauty of the executive agency, in providing what is called, in our jargon, feedback to policymakers. So extracting from the projects we are managing information that can be useful, can support the development, updating of policy making and legislation. And you've heard, once again from Daniel, plenty of examples, even in standardizations, certifications. All that is environment, can be environment, all that can be economic development, growth, and prosperity. But I think that the added value, the real added value of the executive agency is more than just managing and producing feedback. It's also the fact that we manage different programs, so we have a wider view on a number of programs, and we can try to establish connections between them. I will not go into the detail of this type of synergistic activities and role of the executive agencies, but just one keyword, and I repeat our own keywords, SMEs, the development of the support of innovative SMEs, bringing them in contact with potential partners, bringing them in contact with potential access to finance, public or private investors is one example, is also one of our roles. And in managing the different programs, we try not to manage them separately, but in some kind of connected way. Now, the third element of my presentation is this info day. Let's now come to the agenda of the day. It's an info day, the second, I said, and it has a number of objectives. Obviously, the first objective is to anchor the program in its policy basis. So you will hear from my colleagues in DG Environment and DG Klima, what is the theoretical thinking, the basic thinking and the basic policy making that sustains and supports and underlines all the activities of the LIFE program. You will also hear later on what are the specific possibilities open to applicants in this program, in particular the latest call that has been published at the end of April. So there will be an extensive description of all the possibilities, with suggestions about how to make your proposal as successful as possible, how to avoid pitfalls, typical mistakes. The experience of previous successful projects will also be used in this debate. For the first time, we have invited also a number of successful projects, running projects, and they will share with you their experience. And last but not least, the third element of this info day, which I'm sure many of you will enjoy later this afternoon, will be in the networking, because in the end, the program is devised by the European Commission, the policy making comes from there, and it goes back there, but the program survives, the program thrives only if it is made of very active people, passionate people, I would say, and if they talk to one another and create a community. So the networking session later this afternoon, which I'm told is already run out, it's already fully booked, intends to put applicants, players in contact with one another, not so much with us. There will also be opportunities to discuss your ideas with colleagues from the Commission and from the Executive Agency, but most important, I think, is the collective discussions among players on ideas, exchanging experiences, establishing potential partnerships. So in conclusions, I hope that you will enjoy this day and possibly also the whole week. The theme, Green Jobs, is a clear indication of the connection between environmental policy, climate-related policies, and industrial policy, SMEs in particular. And I'm sure that you will get plenty you will have the opportunity to get plenty of information about how to exploit our latest call for proposals and to meet your colleagues and create, sustain, develop your own community. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks a lot, Marco, for this introduction. I want now to ask Mr. Martiol to come and tell us a few words from DG Environment.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy that we have this information session on the LIFE 2017 call just during the Green Week, because, and you have seen for those who were already there yesterday, it gives you, I would say, the opportunity to see the program in a broader perspective, because we have seen yesterday, I would say, very interesting discussion and a very good example of concrete, I would say, results of the project. And it can explain as well better, I would say, the role of the program. And today we will see, I would say, more specificities of the program and its role and impact on the environment policy, and as well its close link with the Natura 2000 network, as well as the role with climate action. I would like, first of all, I would say, to congratulate again all the winner of the awards yesterday evening, and as well all, I would say, the nominees, and more generally, all the participants, because, of course, LIFE is a very, I would say, well-known and successful program, but this is, of course, the result of all the involvement of all the actors since the beginning, since 1992. And I would like this morning just to, I say, refer to three aspects. First of all, the relation, I would say, between LIFE and what we call the Habitat Directive and, I would say, Natura 2000 network. Then some words on, I would say, LIFE since, I would say, the beginning. And I would finish by giving some, I would say, recent developments on policy issue regarding LIFE during this year. So first of all, the contribution of the LIFE program to Natura 2000, as you well know, of course, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Habitat Directive, which have created this Natura 2000 network of protected area. Natura 2000 network is the largest coordinated network of biodiversity rich protected areas in the world. It covers 80% of the land area and 6% of the sea area in the EU. And the Birds and Habitat Directive protects, I would say, 1,500 animals and plant species and some 200 rare habitat type inside and outside these protected areas. And this, of course, in combination with nature protection and sustainable land use and economic activity. And the LIFE program has contributed since the beginning, I would say, to this Natura 2000 network, because it contributed to the establishment in the early years, where it helped the project to collect all the data necessary for the designated sites. And it helped as well to, say, prepare the different mechanisms for the management of these areas. And LIFE has initiated as well a series of pilot restoration projects, which has served as, say, best practices for, say, bigger projects in the coming years. And today, LIFE, nature, and biodiversity projects focus more on practical on-the-ground nature restoration, and you have seen again example yesterday, and on one or several Natura 2000 sites or nature-rich landscape. And they target, of course, various species and habitats, say, for which these sites have been designated. And the LIFE program will actively participate to the action plan which have been adopted, because as you have heard recently, we are very happy because say the Habitat Directive, the Nature Directive, has been recognized as fit for purpose. And of course, this means at the same time that an action plan has been developed in order to see how we can further, I would say, implement and develop and improve, I would say, the actions. And there are four priorities for the action plan for nature. The first one is to improve guidance and knowledge. Second one is to build political ownership and strengthening compliance. Third one is strengthening investment in Natura 2000. And the last one, very important as well, is to better communicate and outreach. Because what is very important is not only that we have many, I would say, activities on the ground, but really that we make a lot of, I would say, information and publicity out of it. And just to give an example on the, I would say, involvement of the LIFE program, regarding the, say, strengthening of investment, we have foreseen the objective to suggest a 10% increase in the nature and biodiversity share of the envelope of the program for the next multi-annual work program 2018-2020. Of course, this will be made remaining in the, I would say, existing budget. And LIFE, in fact, goes beyond, of course, the Natura 2000 network, and it has led the way in generating innovative solutions for today's pressing environmental challenges. This includes, I would say, supporting of activities for industrial symbiosis and knowledge transfer, and the development of new models for the shift toward a circular and green economy. LIFE project has dealt with domestic and industrial wastes, helping the agriculture sector to adapt to climate change, and exploring renewable energies as well. So a large variety of activities, including mitigating air pollution and reducing harmful impact from hazardous chemicals. I would like now to say a few words on the LIFE program itself. So over the 25 years of the program, because we have the 25 years of the anniversary of the Habitat Directive, but at the same time of the program, and we have supported more than 4,500 projects and built up a solid brand. So really that's a huge achievement. And in addition, we have shown and I recognize the value for money of all the activities mentioned. And we have, I would say, evolved regularly. The program has been updated regularly based on experience. And the present program for the period 2014-2020, I would say, has introduced a couple of novelties. First of all, it has incorporated now two clear sub-programs. So one for environment and the other for climate action. We have as well introduced two multi-annual work programs. So the first multi-annual work program for which you are here today is for the period 2014-2017. And the next one will be for the period 2018-2020. And this multi-annual work program, in fact, details the allocation of the resources between the different types of funding, and as well, they detail the selection process, eligibility, and award criteria. But for all these, I would say, details, you will get information further today. And among the, I would say, novelties as well, we have now clear, say, priority, what we call priority areas, which are environment and resource efficiency, nature and biodiversity, environment, governance and information, and we have as well, from the climate side, we have climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and climate governance and information. The program as well is based on the flexible bottom-up approach, which means that under the environment sub-programs, we have target priorities, and these priorities are detailed in the multi-annual work program, and based on this, the applicants can, say, present proposals. And we have as well, to finish on the novelties, I would say, clear structure between the different type of projects that can intervene. So from the common traditional project to integrated projects, so project that on a bigger size, technical assistance project, capacity building in case the member states have, I would say, more difficulty, I would say, to participate to the program. So we provide some assistance for that, and we have as well preparatory projects, and we have as well new financial instruments which have been introduced. And for the period 2014-2020, so the LIFE programs has a budget of more or less 3.5 billion for environment and climate protection. And just to give an idea on the flexibility of the program, program can react very quickly, because last year, in September, President Juncker indicated during his speech on the State of the Union, indicated the creation of a European Solidarity Corps, and LIFE program reacted very quickly and was involved in it. And in December last year, we could launch the first call for volunteers. And we have just launched a second call now, which is still open. And this idea is to provide possibility for all the young people who are willing to find opportunity to really participate by volunteer activities in the management of Natura 2000 sites, which includes monitoring of species and habitat, ecological restoration, reforestation, and wildfire prevention. And I say the second call is open for the moment until the 25th of August 2017. So in case you are interested, please just look at the website of the LIFE program, and you will find full details. And we will be very happy to receive, proposal and to study all your proposals. Again, the global idea of this European Solidarity Corps is that we would have more or less 100,000 volunteers by the year 2020. And just for, our program, we expect, more or less 2,000 volunteers by the end of 2018. So you will see LIFE program participates towards this activity. And I would just like to finish by a couple of information of the present developments of the program. First of all, we are, for the moment, fine-tuning the midterm evaluation of the program, because the program started in 2014, and the regulation forces that at midterm level we have to make an assessment and to check, of course, if the program is still relevant in tackling the issues it seeks to address. And we have to compare as well the activities that member states would implement alone to what the program can achieve. And in that way, just to show, of course, the EU added value of the program. And the evaluation will assess, of course, as well, the effectiveness, the efficiency of the program, and the consistency with the other EU programs. And the midterm evaluation, which will be soon, finalized, will serve as well as an input to the multi-annual work program that we will prepare for the period 2018-2020. And for this program, for this multi-annual program, we have had already a very interesting discussion with the member state, an informal discussion beginning of May, and we are expecting the last input to be received those days. And based on that, we will be in position to present the new program by the end of the year, so that beginning of 2018 we can start, the new program, the new multi-annual program. And so as a conclusion, I just would like to thank you again for all your presence, because I see that there is no more place at all, and I see that I know that we have as well web streaming. So I hope you will, find many information on your project, and especially I hope that you will come with many proposals in order that we go on, with the same, achievement we have had until now. Thank you very much.
Merci. Merci, Jean-Claude. Already a lot of information from DG Environment side. So now we will hear Mr. Philip Owen, head of unit of the LIFE unit for DG Climate Action.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marco. Thanks, Jean-Claude. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, potential beneficiaries, actual beneficiaries, life people of tomorrow. I would just like to give you a brief overview of the climate action part of the LIFE programme. You've heard from Jean-Claude about the environment part. He has 3 times as much money as I do, so, you know, maybe there's going to be more environment than climate projects, but I hope the quality is exactly the same in both cases. I think also we have a slight advantage because we very clearly have targets already set out where we are going. We know where we want to be in 2030. And this is the effect of the Paris Agreement on climate. And because of this, the Commission has put forward proposals on emissions trading. It's put forward proposals on land use, renewable energy, energy efficiency, to meet those overall targets of a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, by having penetration of 27% renewable energy by 2030, and also improving our energy efficiency by 30% by 2030. So we already have a good goal to go for, and in terms of mitigation and adaptation, very clear work ahead. Specifically on adaptation, 2 points are to note at the outset. First of all, that the current adaptation strategy is being evaluated by the Commission, and this clearly will result in a review of the strategy next year, and from that we'll have to see where we're going. So for those of you who are actually interested in climate adaptation, it's well worthwhile keeping an eye on what's coming out of the Commission over the next 6 to 12 months in order that you can build these ideas into future projects. Perhaps too late for this year, of course, because this conference finds the timing very well. As you know, the 2017 call was launched in April. I'm sure a lot of you are already working on proposals, but with the submission in early September for adaptation, it will be a little bit too late to know where we're going. But certainly on the mitigation side, it is very clear. You know, also, as you're very much well aware, Life Climate Action falls into 3 strands: mitigation, adaptation, and governance and information. And I'd just like to spend a few moments going through what we believe is important in each of those strands. Mitigation proposals. We clearly have, as I mentioned, the overall ambition of a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And here we're very much focused on our emissions trading system and heavy and energy-intensive industries. About half of the economy is covered by the emissions trading system, and so therefore anything we can do in these sectors is highly relevant. So here we're looking for the design, development and implementation of innovative solutions, and very much also providing the link in from already successful research programs, those perhaps funded under the Framework Programme 6 for research and innovation, or even Horizon 2020. We are seeing 1 or 2 projects coming through already in this field, so I think this is also an important continuation of LIFE. First of all, it starts off as research, and then it becomes a LIFE project. Secondly, we're also interested in alternatives to fluorinated gases. There was a major achievement last year with the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol, which brought fluorinated gases within the scope of the protocol. So here again, the race is on to find successor gases, successor refrigerants to the fluorinated gases we have today, and also specifically looking at the standards which may be barriers to the implementation of our legislation. Because as we know, standards are often set by industry, which may have alternative ambitions to the other sectors of the economy. And thirdly, land use and land use change in forests. Here we have legislation which is currently being discussed in the other institutions. So again, this is a good area to see where policy is actually going at present and in the future in order to guide potential project applications. Moving on to the adaptation strand, and as I mentioned, the evaluation is key to know what is going on here. We're very much interested in addressing key cross-cutting and sectoral and trans-regional projects. Cross-border issues are very important. If we can get member states, regions working together in this, I think it is extremely crucial. Specifically, we have an interest in the management of floods, but also in coastal management and also in urban land use and planning applications. Here, I think this is extremely important, and I think specifically in this respect, we've been working very closely with the Covenant of Mayors, and we've seen a number of projects coming forward either for adaptation but also for mitigation linked to this, and this is certainly an important political priority for this Commission to make the Covenant of Mayors work not just in Europe but also at a global scale, and here quite clearly LIFE can actually help the implementation of projects. The third area is our global information and communication aspect. The Paris Agreement gave an increased emphasis to establishing mid-century strategies, and here we would like to see national authorities working both with the implementation of their 2030 strategies, but also thinking further ahead to the mid-century and what may need to be done, both from a technological point of view, but also from a modelling point of view to make sure that all policy areas and all sectors are taken into account. Quite clearly also the continuing function of the emissions trading system remains important to us, and also in the light of the ongoing co-legislative procedure, seeing where the legislation ends up, hopefully later this year, will also influence the areas we're looking for projects in the future. As I mentioned again, fluorinated gases, the rollout of the legislation, the actual training of people on the ground, information sharing remains important to us. And finally, a new area which we've introduced to the call in 2017 is actually looking at real-world emissions from road vehicles, specifically cars and vans. And here we're thinking more of CO2 than other pollutant emissions, but certainly both would be of interest to us because, of course, here there's a very close linkage to the work DG Environment is doing on air quality. And I think this is important to bear in mind that we are now thinking in a joined-up way and not independently of each other. I think I also have to mention the concept of the integrated project, which concern the implementation of policies on a large scale. We've already seen some work on greenhouse gas emissions reductions. We've seen, for example, a major air quality project in Poland, which has achieved great success under the DG Environment strand. But also, we're thinking about adaptation strategies and also urban action plans in this area. And one important point to note is that we have, in the climate part, increased our budget in this area for the future because we actually want to attract more of these projects over the remaining years of the programme. Finally, I need to finish on just mentioning the multi-annual work programme. I think Jean-Claude already mentioned it in his presentation. There will be a new multi-annual work programme for the period 2018 to 2020. For Life Climate Action, it is our intention to remain with the themes we have at present. There may be some minor changes as we see the actual calls for proposals being issued for 2018, 2019 and 2020, but certainly the overarching themes we expect to remain the same. However, we're also trying to improve the access to the programme for all participants by actually looking very closely at how we can reward, in terms of EU added value, those projects which are very close to our policy initiatives. And I think this is an important aspect whereby, for us, EU added value really means those that stick to our projects, to our policies, projects which can really implement what is important to us. And this is why I think it is extremely important that we keep in touch with you via our website, but also at events like this, so that all potential beneficiaries know what is going on in our terms of policy, so they can actually submit proposals which are very close to our hearts and hopefully will actually achieve funding for the future. So with that, a quick go through of where we see Life Climate Action for this year but also the future, and may I wish you a very successful day today and the remaining time of Green Week. Thank you very much, everybody.
thanks a lot for our three first speakers. So I know that some of you have some other commitment. So if you wish to leave, please. Because before we continue with the other part of the morning before the coffee break. So now we will, as said by Mr. Malacarne, we will enter more into the details of the current call. First, we will hear Angelo Salsi, who is the head of unit currently in LIFE, in EASME, head of unit for LIFE in EASME, my head of unit. And, but he has been as well heading LIFE unit in DG Environment in the past for long years. So he has a lot of experience about the LIFE program, a lot of knowledge. So we are very lucky to have him in EASME. So Angelo, if you want to address us.
25 years. Yesterday somebody said a quarter of a century. Then I stopped and said, a quarter of a century? It's big. Then I thought, we spanned over 2 millennia. At a certain moment in time, I thought we were sort of the Roman Empire or something like that. Then I cooled down. I said, no, wait a minute. It's just a program of the European Union. And it had the merit only of lasting a little bit longer than what many other things invented by humankind tend to last. And I asked myself, why did this happen? And what really made the 25 years being gone so fast? And I asked myself, what can I give you, since some of you are part of the LIFE family, some others might consider divorcing from this family, and others might wish to be engaged in the family. So whatever your condition is, I suspect that one important element is understanding what the family is before you decide which way you want to go. At least this is what happened in our real families almost every day, and before we take stupid decisions, it's probably wise to understand what are the pros and cons of the LIFE family. And I would start probably from the fathers of this LIFE program, Mr. Munting, a former Dutch MEP, and Mr. Lamassoure, who is still an MEP, a French MEP. Mr. Munting is considered the father of the LIFE program because he was the one that fought for years to get the program through. The other arms of the European Union, at the time not yet a European Union, they really didn't want a LIFE program, and that's why it's also the LIFE program is considered to be sort of the little baby of the European Parliament. And in their brains and hearts, it still very much is, even though the fathers of LIFE have gone. And Mr. Lamassoure was instead the guy who invented the acronym, which stands for l'Instrument Financier pour l'Environnement. This was the good old times, or the bad old times, depends from the point of view, when French was the vehicular language of our daily work in the European institutions, and that's why it's a French acronym and not a classical English acronym. These two guys probably would have a hard time appreciating how much this program has been growing, and the fact that their intentions at the time led to 25 years of successes year after year. So if we take away the fathers, I mean, what makes the family work and stay together? Allow me to take the governance side of LIFE first, even though I do not consider that this is essentially the most important one. I've never really counted them, even though I have a colleague who has a list of all the people who have been working on LIFE, in particular in the European Commission and now in the agency. But I dare to say that there are probably more than 200 people that in various ways have been engaged in the running of the LIFE program from the side of the institution. Some of these are retired, very few, luckily so, passed away. Most of them are still very much alive and kicking. And many of them, even though years have been building up on their shoulders, they are still very committed and engaged. And I have the feeling that this kind of job does pay back, even in physical terms, in the sense that it keeps you young. That's definitely the feeling that most of the lifeists in the Commission still have nowadays. If you take away these people, what's left? Well, actually, there is a lot left in the sense that the LIFE program is based on a legal base. It's a regulation. It is co-decided. It was the first attempt of a trilogue, of a conciliation, when the new system of co-decision came into place. So we were an innovator even in that sense. And this means that the Council, meaning the Member States, and the Parliament clearly has a role to play in the governance. And just for your information, we are starting slowly or less slowly to discuss about the future financial perspectives. And since we are a financial program, clearly this discussion is quite relevant. And if you as citizens, lobbyists, groups of interest or whatever, you think that the LIFE program has still a role to play in the future, probably is the time to start thinking about this, because if you want to influence the future financial perspective, that's when we start really getting into the business. If you leave aside the Council and the Parliament, we have the whole constituency of what we call the national contact points, or the LIFE delegates. That's the Member States. They, in various ways, they participated in the LIFE program in the years gone by. The good thing is that the tendency is to grow in terms of relevance and importance in terms of contribution. So far that we now have in the legal base a clear, distinct role for the national contact point, because we acknowledge the fact that they do exist and that they are contributing with their network to helping the applicants put forward their proposal, put forward better proposals. Later on, they are even helping them sometimes to implement their projects and to take stock of the results of this project and put them in other places where this can be useful. All this work would not be possible if we would not have one single element which makes the LIFE program different from any other program that is run by the European Union, that I know of at least. It's the monitoring network of what we call the external monitors that we have since the early 90s. We survived with this element of consultancy out there, which is built upon today something like 180 people who are physically and geographically based in a situation which is near to the projects. They speak their languages. They are our eyes on the ground, but they are not perceived by our beneficiaries as a controller. In most of the cases, they are perceived as a support. And we heard again and again in all the evaluations we carried out that these monitors, they are really highly considered by all the beneficiaries and by the member states. So it's a very special feature that LIFE has that allows the beneficiary to have a direct interface with the management authority, if you want, of the program, facilitate their daily life. Hey, I have a problem, how do I solve it? And you can do it in Italian. Pronto? Ho un problema, come faccio a risolverlo? You can do it in German. Hallo, bitte, haben Sie eine Lösung für mich? And so on, in all possible languages of this very nice continent in which we live. And then we finally land in the part of the family which I consider it's the most, how can I say, energetic of the whole thing, is the real thing that keeps me running since 23 years, dealing with life year after year and still having such an enjoyable professional life. These are the beneficiaries. These are the guys and girls like you, today, tomorrow. And you can't believe the variety of these people, what it is. It's really amazing. Public authorities. Public authorities, they never work, these officials. You go there to the office, you see the jacket, you don't see the guy or the girl. Well, I must admit that in some cases, LIFE Project gave me the possibility to confirm this prejudice, but in most of the cases, believe me, I saw people that are officials that are paid to do their 8 hours, that worked 12 hours without saying a single word of complaint, because they are passionate, because they are serving the public just like I am, and they feel proud about this. So if you leave aside the public authorities, and we have tons of them in our LIFE projects, We have the whole rest of the civil society, NGO, foundations, non-profit. Well, you went to Greece in the 90s, you could count a couple of NGOs dealing with nature conservation that you could consider as organization. They could organize probably an event like this, that's about it. 10 years after, in Greece, you could land there and find several more NGOs, and those NGOs were capable of running millions of euros worth of projects on the ground. This is capacity building. So these NGOs have grown up exponentially by using life as a sort of a gym. And we had things, we had beneficiaries like churches or religious groups. One of the most probably exotic, if you want to put it in those terms, is the Mount Athos community. It's a place where, I'm sorry for the girls in the room, you can't enter, or it's only men, since more than 1,000 years. They have a code of conduct based on a set of laws which dates back to 974 after Jesus, and they never changed it. Well, I don't say that we should follow exactly the same example, but a little bit of stability, at least in my home country, would not, would not hurt. And these guys, they live in a place which is the whole peninsula of Mount Athos is a Natura 2000 site. So they did a couple of life projects with us, and they are extremely proud of it. We had jails, prisoners working in life projects. I shook hands with people that were sentenced to life in a jail, and they were working in a life project. And I can tell you, I had the feeling that this guy was exactly a man like me. I didn't perceive any, if you want, fear or distance, and I was very proud that he had a possibility to do something positive for himself and for society, thanks to the Life Project. The idea behind this long list, I can add farmers, I can put shepherds, I can put hunters, I mean, all these kind of groups of people gives you the feeling, it gives me the feeling that this is very much like my actual boss and head of department, Didier, keeps telling me life is a people's program. It's true that it is not like Erasmus, a program that gets into the living room of every single of us. But it goes down to a level of citizens which is really very much local and territorial, whether these are companies or large factories, a single public official, an NGO, and so on and so on. And this people's program brings me to the last message for you, and this is a plea, and I think in this audience probably I'm preaching to the converted, or at least I hope so, but I do it every time I have the opportunity since a couple of years. Live, together with these other programs that we mentioned several times, is a sort of carte de visite for the European institution, for the European Union, which shows to the people that we are not only the guys that write directives on curb bananas and things like that. We are living in a pretty strange period of time where after 60 years of peace, thanks to a Peace Corps, which is called the European Union, we are now starting more and more to put into question the basics of our common revolution, which is trying to set the whole continent going together. The recent events that you all know about, clearly, it shows that it's what we have could be lost tomorrow. So my plea to you is when you go back home, you meet your friends, relatives, colleagues, and so on, try to do the same I'm doing now, try to give them examples, including life, to show them that the European Union is not only what they read on the newspapers. There are things that need to be changed, there are things that need to be improved, and you ask them one thing, if you deem that they are a bit too much Eurosceptic. Give me a credible alternative to the European Union today. I've not heard a single politician, journalist, or whatever that pleads for, Italy should get out of the euro or things like that, giving a credible alternative to what they want to dismantle. My only credible alternative that I have read several times in essays and works by people that are better equipped than me in these kind of things is just more Europe and not less Europe. If somebody comes tomorrow and has this credible alternative, then we can sit down and discuss. Otherwise, I think there is only one way forward, and this is what I gave to you. So please help us in this game. If you believe in the LIFE program, start thinking seriously about its continuation. And obviously, I would like to see more than this room coming in the next call, launching new ideas and new projects. We will not be able to finance all of them, I'm very sorry. But we have a bit more money every year, and there is quite a level of hope for everyone to get their chances and to go forward with another new LIFE project with another nice little bit of participants in the big LIFE family that we are already. And the story will continue for another 25 years, you agree? Then we'll discuss the next 25, okay? Enjoy the day.
Thanks, Angelo. Thanks, Angelo, for your words. It's always a pleasure to listen to your experience. Now we will listen to Fabio Leone and Anne Vermalen. They will successively give us some information, concrete information about the call of this year that was published in at the end of April. So, Fabio, the floor is yours, and there will be a presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Nadia. I mean, after such inspiring speeches, I'm in a difficult position to go back to the nitty-gritty details of the call. Sorry for that, but I need to do it. So my presentation today will be touching upon three main elements of LIFE: the novelties for the call 2017, an open window to the possibility of submitting close-to-market projects, and finally some tips and tricks on how to apply successfully to LIFE projects. Anne will follow my intervention, introducing you into wonderful world of the financing, so type of cost, eligibility, after. So then, I think it was said already from the director at the beginning, from Angelo, a bit what does the executive agency in LIFE. So I don't need to repeat it. It's briefly, we are responsible for the entire life cycle of the projects, from its evaluation up to the policy feedback of the results of the projects. Indeed, it was said already, EASME is not alone in this job. We have external independent experts for the evaluation and revision, and the monitoring team to follow up on the projects that are under execution. And indeed, in this, all of these steps, we have the punctual input and support from the mother DGs, DG Environment and DG Klima. Type of project, again, this has been touched upon before in the previous presentations by Angelo, by Philip. We have several types of projects we are financing. The focus of my presentation is mainly on the first one, so the traditional projects, but you heard that we do have capacity building projects, we have integrated projects, large-scale projects, operating grants, financial instruments that are managed by the European Bank for Investment or national banks, and finally preparatory projects. These are the priority areas, the main priority areas of the LIFE program. Merciol already touched upon them. Two main sub-programs, environment and climate. And within the sub-program environment, the environment and resource efficiency priority areas, nature and biodiversity, and governance and information. And in the climate change, we have adaptation, mitigation, and governance and information. Now we go to the launching of the call. It was launched more or less 1 month ago, the 28th of April. You see there is one single opening day, but there are several closing dates depending on the priority areas concerned or the type of projects. They are all happening more or less in the months of September, so from the beginning of September up to the end. There you see also the budget available. We have certain variation, increase in budget compared to the previous years. It goes from a minimum of 10% increase up to a maximum of twice as much for the integrated projects climate. We have also areas in which the budget has been reduced slightly from the governance and information environment. Now let's enter into the bit of details of the call. What's actually new in the call 2017? Well, there is not much new, to be honest. So if you are already aware of the mechanics of the call 2016, it has remained stable. Stability is also one of our keywords when we look at calls and to applicants. We have just made a clarification on one point. So for those projects that take up results of Horizon 2020 or preceding framework program from the European Union, if they do that, they need to explain well in the proposals, because this gives additional points. They need to explain well what are the results they are going to take up and how they are going to take up. We often receive a list of projects with numbers and acronym, and this is really not sufficient for being awarded additional points in the evaluation. So that's just a clarification that we had this year. The reality is that the main changes of the mechanics of the LIFE program happened in 2014, so with the publication of the LIFE regulation and the multi-annual program. And there are three key concepts that have been introduced more evidently in 2014. These are the need for long-term sustainability of the projects, the component of replication and transfer which projects must have, and finally the measure of the benefits of the impacts that these projects brings to the environment. These are the focal points of differences compared to LIFE pre-2014, and keep that in mind because are the key components that are very much relevant for the evaluation of projects. We have seen a slow capturing of this concept in 2014 and 2015. So in 2016, we tried to further clarify and guide you in what we mean by the different new elements that were introduced in 2014. And so the guides are trying to explain more in depth about certain concepts. The concept of sustainability, ensuring that you have a clear strategy to have the results of the project being used after the financing from LIFE. The concept of replication and transferability, so the idea of for your project to have a clear strategies embedded in the project activities to replicate and transfer your solution to other contexts, to other countries, to other sectors, to other entities. We also specify that the need of making very explicit the impacts that you foresee from your projects, the benefits that you will bring to the environment and to the climate by executing the projects, and these benefits must be really made explicit in terms of absolute values and relative values, and you will have a table to fill in practical terms, and an explanation to give in the application forms. We do welcome, and I will explain it afterwards, more close to market type of projects. And we have introduced a number of checks in the application forms in which you will have to declare if you are applying to other similar funds with the same idea, or if you have already received LIFE funds and you want to follow up on those projects. We really need to have a clear added value expressed in the proposals to understand why you want to be financed a second time, what are the differences, what is the added value that you bring on top of what you have already done. Double funding indeed, well, it was said from the beginning, we do manage in practice the large majority of direct support for environment and climate related projects. In the Horizon 2020, the SME instruments, the maritime, etc. So we do have a good picture of what is going on in the different funding mechanisms. And we do check systematically with our colleagues for this type of issues. So be transparent when you do your application if you have applied already for other instruments. Finally, we clarified that we do look, especially for the governance and information type of projects, that you are welcome to propose us the development of new tools, new methodologies, decision support system, but you need to embed in the project a part that is implementing these tools, that bring them to life, because that will then lead to concrete impacts. And this sometimes is a bit misunderstood. So the put in practice in life is essential, both for normal projects, then for more methodological or design tools. And we also introduced some mandatory deliverables as part of your carrying out of the projects. This is not to be delivered at submission stages, it's just that you need to develop them during the project. A transferability and replication plan for the environmental resource efficiency priority area and for climate action proposals, as well an exploitation plan as part of the afterlife plan. For those close to market projects, we do also ask for the development of a business plan, clearly. Now, a bit of an explanation close to market projects. Well, first of all, the reality is that LIFE always supported close to market projects. It was not probably evident, it was not actually underlined, but it does support close to market project. What is a close to market project? Well, it's a project that tries, for example, to implement environment or climate solution in a close to market conditions. So pre-commercialization, scale up to industrial scale, and develop this concept during the project and with an idea of implementing it in the short and medium term. It's a project that has an idea on the technicalities and business aspects of its projects. Does your technology works? Do you understand these business opportunities around this solution that you are proposing? So you must have already at the stage of submission an idea on the technical feasibility of the project and on its economic attractiveness. And finally, we indeed, these close-to-market project finance activities that are typically of a pre-commercial nature, so market analysis, business plans, etc. They are particularly suitable, the close-to-market project, to projects in the environment resource efficiency priority area and in the climate change mitigation area. obviously, they are fitting very well with the priorities of the European Commission in terms of grow and job. And you see these 2 days are about green jobs. And for those of you that maybe remember or applied in the past to CIP Eco-Innovation that was running from 2007 to 2013, is very much the same type of concept and projects. Well, the idea here indeed is for life as a one-stop shop for which an entity, an enterprise, a business, or an organization can come to us with either their innovative ideas, their prototyping, their demonstrations, or their upscaling intentions, or even the commercialization part. So it's one fit all, and some of the projects, it's not a bit rare, but some of the projects, they go through all these steps in one shot within the project. Just to clarify, a purely marketing or purely commercial project does not fit the scope of close to market. There must be a residual technical risk which make a reason for us to finance. So you wonder if we are going to change the focus of life? Not at all. In reality, we try to open up to other type of applicants that maybe they were not really aware of what life can bring to them. So we make it this more explicit, but in reality, the non-close to market part of life remains the key feature of life. Now, the probably interesting bit, this is how to be successful in life. I'm afraid I have no magic recipe. But okay, I'll go through some of the typical mistakes or typical oversights that applicants do when they prepare their proposals, when they submit their proposals, and key elements that if got well, give much more chance for you to be awarded. Premises are out of it. I mean, this is common to most financing programs from the European Union. So significant competition. It takes time and money to prepare live proposals, I'm afraid. And if you do, you are conscious that your proposal is poorly developed, done in a rush, don't even try, because the success of this would be basically near to zero. Obviously, after this a bit depressing introduction, the fact that if you don't apply, you don't get, so still. Core of your starting point, before even looking at the forms, the guidance, the documents that are published around the life call. These are essential. So please dedicate your first couple of days of life adventure in reading this document, because we do see that many do not read documents and just jump into the forms, and that's a recipe for failure. So, and in this activity adventure of reading, I think you need to look to first the multi-annual program, in which you will find the priorities of life materialized in terms of project topics, so you can already see, do I fit with life? They're not prescribing, so you can come with your own topic if it doesn't fit. But of course, the fact that you fit, you're also entitled to additional points in the evaluation, so there is an advantage for those projects that fit the priorities. Second element to read, the second bulk of documents to read is the application packages. They will guide you through what exactly you need to introduce in the proposals, how to swim in the forms. This is also important. You get also examples of what you should write in certain sections. And also the frequently asked questions, have a look at them, because these are the most common questions that we receive on Life, and it's a good reading. Finally, to understand, here there will be no time, but to understand how the evaluation process works, there is a guide for evaluation. You will see the different steps across the evaluation, the work criteria that we do apply with the external independent experts for evaluating your proposals. Have a good read of these documents, bring them to the bed before sleeping, because this is, no, I will not say half of the work done, but 20% for sure of the work done. Something else, if you are new to Life, you don't know how to move, well, look at the Life website, the Life project database. And there are projects from 92 to today, and you will get an idea of the type of project that Life finance, and also if your idea has already been financed, so that's also important that you check. And maybe also you find interesting partners that you can team up in your project. It's a very valuable tool. What I would suggest, maybe recommend, is that for the case of environment and resource efficiency, look at projects 2014, 2015, because they have already embedded the novelties of the new Life program. Finally, for the ones that have the privilege or the bad luck to have received comments from the evaluation of previous Life proposals that have been not successful, please do take care of reading those evaluation feedback, because you have a key advantage compared to others that are fresh, that they come for the first time. You know exactly where are your weaknesses. And personal suggestions, because I see this many times, project fail, they receive their sheet with all the scores in the different with the different criteria, and they say, okay, where I failed? I failed in criteria 1 and 3. Okay, let's do something here and there and stop. No, please do look across all the criteria, not only just the criteria that you failed, but all the feedback that the evaluators give you on the criteria, all the weaknesses that the evaluator have given to you. That's a good suggestion to be really making us really step forward in the evaluation next time. Okay, next, some typical weaknesses which are translated here in the recommendation. Baseline. You need to be clear what is the problem you try to target. What is the problem that you try to target? It seems some kind of obvious. You come and, but in reality not. We see projects which it's hard to understand what exactly they want to do, or what kind of environment or climate change problem they want to target. So what is the problem? Explain well. Why is it a problem at European scale? So that's fundamental. What you have done up to now to target or to solve this problem, and what are the intentions that you have during the Life project to move forward from the state of the art today. And the state of the art today means that you have to compare yourself with others out there that are doing the same or similar activities. And you have to demonstrate that what you bring to us is better what is already available out there. And typically, and don't do that, please, don't compare yourself to the worst case scenarios. So I'm doing, and it happens often, unfortunately. I'm proposing these solutions. This is good because, on the other hand, everything is landfilled or everything is wasted. No. Be realistic, be transparent, look well of what is being done out there to compare yourself with the state of the art, not the worst case. Again, if you do well this, you're half of the way. Oops, sorry. jump. The second one is replication and transfer. Yes, please do think of developing a solid strategies for replicating and transfer the results of your projects to other contexts, to other conditions, to other beneficiaries, to other countries, etc. This can happen during the project, ideal case, or even after the project. If it's happening after the project, you really need to put up a solid activities during the project to link it back after the project. This is very important. And replication and transfer is not, I'm going to 20 conferences and I'm going to spread the news about my project and how good I am. No, it's beyond this type of activities. It's really activities on the ground with other entities, for example. Also, indeed, it's linked to replication and transfer. You have to plan for activities that will ensure that after the life of the projects, the results are not just packed and, let's say, archived vertically, but they are used by someone else, used by yourself, etc. So there is a life after the funding of life. That maybe also other funding will be planned, or other activities will be done after the life projects. Well, I didn't explain these brackets. Those, what you see, AW1 is award criteria 1. So those elements of the baseline will be judged under the award criteria 1. There are 7 criteria where your project will be assessed. The replication is award criteria 6, and the sustainability is again award criteria 1. Please shout if I'm out of time, or I'm out of time? No. Okay. Sorry. I will try to be quick. Yes, sequence of actions. Typical problem of projects, not only live, is that the live project is basically, in a nutshell, divided in 2 pieces, the descriptive part and the action part. What we often see a very nice descriptive part, well done, everything is there, and then it collapses in the action. So you cannot find anymore the beautiful objectives and targets and output that you find described in part B in the actual action. So the two are delinked. Please don't overdo the initial part, because then if we don't see it is implemented in the action part, the project is very weak. Don't underestimate the time that you will need to estimate the impacts of your project or the potential of your project, the output during the project, and 3-5 years after the project. There is an Excel table that you will need to fill in. The typical behavior is we do the bulk of the work, writing the proposal, action, and then we leave at the end the indicator table. And then there you will start to scratch your heads, you will start to make some bad estimations, and impacts indeed is a good, it's a good part of the project and must be really well taught. Transnational projects, if you come with different countries, European countries, you get additional points. Be careful to build up a rationale behind involving other countries. So it's important that you give an indication what kind of rationale or objectives you want to achieve by bringing additional countries that would indeed help achieving the objective of the project, or even amplify the objective of the project, or even transfer and replicate your ideas to other countries. Sorry if I go a bit too fast. Don't overdo, because we see also the fact that, okay, if we do promise a lot, we put all our cards on the table, we promise to solve all the problems one after the other, we have more chance to get the financing. No, please do focus on your issues and do develop your actions to solve that issues, to address that problem, not all the problems of the environment in one shot. Partnership is important. Try to build up a partnership that is complementary, bring all the key stakeholders in it. when you are thinking about a project. Duration, yes, please take into account that there may be permits, activities that you need to perform. Take well the time for these permits. Take well, understand well if the timing of the permit fits the timing of the live projects. For more projects attached to nature, think about weather conditions, think about possible delays, and embed those in your project. Then I'm afraid that probably I will not have the time to go through all of this, but it's a sum up. Yeah, this will be available, the presentation. You will see good design if you are clearly addressing those elements on the left. You will have good chance for success. On the other is the typical problems that comes up. It's the other coin of the good design. Well, that's my part, and sorry for being long. I'll let Anne speak. Thank you.
In fact, we started quite late. And if you can do it quickly.
Yes, I'll try to.
We will have also a session at the end of the morning, question and answer, where you will be able to ask for clarification if need be. Thanks.
Okay, so I think most of you will not be financials, but still it will be very important for you to ensure when you draft the proposal that you have a coherent budget inside. Where can you find the most important information for making sure that your budget is fine? Read the application guide. There are, for each of the specific forms that you need to fill in, there is some guidance. In addition, there are frequently asked questions. We will have the model grant agreement, a new version published soon, and the updated Annex 10, which is the financial and administrative guidelines. They will also they will change a bit compared to the previous years with some experience that we did in the meantime, so we want to update them as well. I have listed the most important articles that you may want to read if you do the budget. They're on the slide, so you can take a look when you're ready to put budget figures in. Be realistic, because it's important to have a good budget to get through the award evaluation on the financial coherence criteria. And also when you get a project awarded, you want to be sure that you have enough money to carry out this project. Only put costs inside that you know that will be one day in your accounting system, and only costs within the project duration. Only exception is that in case you would need to deliver an audit certificate, certificate on financial statements, these costs can be charged also if they incur after the end of the project, as well as the drafting of the final reporting. So these are the two exceptions. Then for the financial application forms, they are from F1 to F8. Make sure that you put the costs in the correct cost category. So there is some guidance in the application guide and some further guidance in the Annex 10, the administrative and financial guidelines. Costs should not be after the comma, so you round them to the nearest euro. Every beneficiary, also if you decide to work with your affiliates, mother-daughter companies, or members from associations, everyone has to declare his own cost. So make sure that they are separated. Avoid internal invoicing, so everyone needs to declare his cost that he incurs. It are direct costs, so actual costs. So if you work with internal departments and they recharge costs, we want the actuals, not with uplifts inside. Normally you don't charge any VAT except when you cannot recover it. Or for public bodies, they can also not charge VAT for activities they engage in as a public body. So in principle, the project costs would not be linked to those type of activities, but just in case. Then The main category of costs, I think, where we also have most of the issues, personal costs. So it should only be costs that are related to your employees or personnel that is hired with an equivalent appointing act like secondments. Or you can also have this type of consultancy agreements, but these should be contracts with natural persons. So if they are hired through a company, you should put them under subcontracting external assistance. Then make sure that when you budget, that you make sure that the tasks are carried out by the appropriate staff level. So if you put people on it that are too experienced or with a very high cost level, in the end it will not be very cost efficient. So take that into account. Also look at the number of person days needed, and then the daily rate, of course, should be applicable to the appropriate staff level. For calculating the daily rate, which is in case of employees, when you pay monthly salaries, there you take the total yearly salary cost and you divide it by the yearly productive days. So the salary cost includes social contributions and other statutory costs. They are further defined in the Annex 10. And then the productive days, these are the days without weekends, without holidays and the illnesses. So in principle, not so difficult to calculate or to budget. For persons hired under consultancy agreements, of course, there you mainly have daily rates or hourly rates already specified. Then some specificities for public bodies. Of course, we will only reimburse costs for activities that would not have been carried out if the project would not have been undertaken. So therefore, we also have this 2% rule. They're the sum of the public body's own contributions for the entire consortium, so it's not per partner. They should exceed by at least 2% the salary cost of non-additional staff, so the permanent staff, civil servants, and so on. And then we have a definition of what is then additional staff. That is, in fact, staff whose contracts or contract renewals start on or after the start date of the project, or in case the signature of the grant agreement is before the start date. As of then, they have to be specifically seconded or assigned to the project. So there is a contract renewal in case of temporary staff, and you have contract reassignments. This can be that if your contract is ongoing or the staff's contract is ongoing, they work on projects so that they are reassigned to new projects. So these are the criteria. Then we have the durable goods, equipment, infrastructure, prototype. There is this general principle that only depreciated costs can be included up to a maximum. So for the purchase of equipment, this is maximum 50% that the depreciated amount can represent. And then for infrastructure, it's maximum 25%. There are some exceptions. For prototypes, in principle, you can declare all the cost of the prototype if they comply, of course, with the definition of a prototype. So it should be specifically created for the project, not available as a serial product, and it should not be commercialized. Normally, also, prototypes, they are in any case not depreciated in your accounting system, so this would also be linked to that in most cases. For nature projects, public bodies and non-profit organizations, if they fulfill certain conditions, they can also declare the 100%. And we have a similar condition in IP projects also for public bodies and for non-for-profit organizations. Subcontracting or external assistance, this should in principle not exceed 35% of the budget unless it is justified. And it should be linked to the implementation of a limited part of the project only. So only if it is really necessary for the implementation, you can charge these costs. In principle, we don't allow this for project management, but there are some exceptional cases, so then it should be further justified. The other cost category, This is the category of cost where you will have costs that result directly from the requirements that are imposed by the grant agreement. Like it might be that during the financial viability check of your organization, if it is not very good, we may require a financial guarantee. It's for very few projects, so there is no need to budget these costs in advance. I think this year we had maybe 6 or so of all the projects that we finance, so it's not a lot. The audit certificate is only needed for costs of beneficiaries with a union contribution at least 325,000 euro. This is per beneficiary. So if you're below that amount, you don't need to budget these costs either. And then there are translation costs and costs for dissemination material. There might be others. Normally, you can have a look at the application guide. But these are the most frequent ones. Overheads, we have a flat rate for that, which is based on the total direct eligible costs, excluding land purchase, long-term lease, or one-off compensations. It is maximum 7%. And it is per beneficiary, so it is not for the total project. And it should represent a fair share of the overall overheads of the beneficiary. So for some, 7% might be a lot. For others, it's maybe not enough, but it's a maximum. Award of contracts is for us quite important because you receive public funding. So you will have to demonstrate that you allocate the work or the services or when you procure goods to the tender offering best value for money or to the tender with the lowest price. Also, there should not be conflict of interest. And in the F forms, we would like you to indicate a type of procedure that you are going to use or that you're already using, because in case of framework agreements, it might be that you decide to reuse them, if of course they comply with the rule of best value for money. For public bodies, that is easy because you're in any case subject to public procurement rules, so you can then just put public procurement. For the private entities, you can use your internal rules up to 135,000 euro. After that, you will need to launch an open tendering. So, and you cannot just split the different purchases in parts just to avoid this threshold. So we have three the main frequently encountered issues that we see either at evaluation stage or at revision stage after we have awarded the projects and we're fine-tuning before we sign the grant agreements. At the evaluation stage, we see always that some of the coordinators, private entities, that they don't submit an audit certificate if the total cost for the project is more than 750,000 euro, the union contribution, not the cost, the union contribution. So we need this audit certificate. In any case, it should be produced by an approved external auditor that certifies the accounts for the last financial year. So most enterprises or most companies already have this. It's a requirement, so every year we get this feedback from companies where we don't need to produce these reports by national law. It's true, but in order to apply, you will need to submit it. Sole traders, so we discover often during the time that we are producing the grant agreements or we're preparing them, that there are natural persons included as beneficiaries. Sole traders are entities that are owned and run by an individual, and there is no legal distinction between the owner and the company. So the assets of the company and the owner are the same. So these are then considered natural persons, so they should not be a beneficiary. They can act in another role as an external assistant, subcontractor, or they can work as a type of consultancy, but they cannot be a beneficiary. Then there is the possibility to have affiliated entities included. We might accept them, but of course it depends on the structure of your project, whether it is useful or not. If they have really a lot of costs, then it might be better that they become a beneficiary in their own right. We also need a clear identification of them. So, of course, their costs will be in the budget of the beneficiary with whom they are linked. And then we ask in the F forms that you also clearly indicate that it concerns an affiliate and that the name of the affiliate in case you work with more than one. They also need to comply with the same rules as the beneficiaries. They will also have to do reporting. And they need to comply with this eligibility and non-exclusion criteria. So they can also not be on the verge of bankruptcy and so on. So they have the same criteria to respect. They should also demonstrate, or you should demonstrate, that there is a legal capital link between the beneficiary and the affiliate. So it's mother-daughter companies in both senses. We can include them, as well as members of associations and the association. So in the case of membership, we would like also to see the membership list, that we can see the clear link. In any case, the beneficiary remains responsible for the affiliate. So it is the beneficiary that enters in the grant agreement. And as I already mentioned, if the affiliate would have an important role, then it's much better to include them as an associated beneficiary. Then last slide, be clear and precise. So we only evaluate applications on the basis of what is submitted, not on a potential of an idea. Read the documents that we have listed because they are a big help. In case you have still questions, there is always a mailbox where you can send questions to. Maybe also check ongoing projects to have some clear ideas, and maybe talk to some of these ongoing projects on how that they applied successfully. So thank you, and good luck.
Thanks. Thanks to all the speakers of this morning, and just one point about the financial aspect. There will be in the room, in the vision room, there will be a financial desk with Anne and one or two of her colleagues ready for, if you have any specific question only on financial, this desk will be open for you. I want to thank also the interpreters for their flexibility as we have gone over the time of this morning, of this first part. We were meant to be back at 12, but of course we will expand a bit the coffee break now. I'm trying to look. I hope if it's okay if we start again in 20 minutes, if the interpreters are okay with that. Okay? Yes? Okay, thanks a lot for that. So let's meet again at 12:15. Thanks a lot.